What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Five Pod, episode number 142. I'm your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me, co-host Jake Kopstick. Cope, it's been a couple weeks. We've had a lot going on in terms of basketball and everything else, and we got some stuff to go over today. How's it going?
Yeah, going well. Tired.
Yeah, you and me both.
You for other reasons. You got a lot going. I can't believe you're even showing up to some games, man. I would be run down like no other.
For the love of the game.
Yeah, I respect the hell out of it. I don't know. I've told you a couple times, like, hey, like you got a wedding you're planning. You just got to play. You got a lot going on, man. But
try my best.
Yeah, it's like I feel a second win coming on, and I've done a really good job this year. Like, hey, if I have to miss a game because I'm feeling sick and I don't want to turn it into I missed 2 or 3 games because I've been there and it sucks. And I feel like it's good. I can feel it coming on. But last week I did 4 games in 4 days. Me and you were at LaSalle. You did a nice story on the LaSalle, on the Joe's LaSalle game and a good Joe's win. But man, I had to call it a night. I was going to go down to Temple.
You were
Sam
like
and Riley and
zombie walking around a little bit.
Yeah, that was
by the end of that.
It was not my finest hour.
Because you had done Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then that game, right?
Yeah. So and Temple went to overtime Wednesday, so I had a really late night to start the week. Then I went to Drexel, Hampton on Thursday. I was at Villanova, Providence on Friday. And then LaSalle and St. Joe's. I think that was a 2:30 game they played in the afternoon. So kind of a quicker turnaround. There was no place to park on 20th and Olney because there was snow all over the sides of the road. So I had to park at the nursing school. But yeah, it's crazy, Kyle. Like I was telling Joe Donahue at the sports writers banquet, like as soon as the calendar flips to the new year, you're like, oh my God, like we're almost done. It's crazy, and it's like I don't like look forward to that at all. But like it
comes very quickly.
This is a great part of what makes it great is also like what makes the sport not great at the same time. Is like you're going, and then we're gonna get to conference tournaments or like in the case of Penn, like what happened to them last year. It's not there's no guaranteed conference tournament for them. I mean, heck, there's not one guaranteed for Temple either with the last 3 teams in the American not making it. But it's in this sport in particular, Kyle, because it's 1-game seasons, you don't play series and stuff like that. There's no double elimination in tournaments. Like the ending of college basketball and the abruptness of it for teams is unlike any other sport. It's unlike any other sport, where you're playing. I was at St. Joe's last year, and it almost like shocked me how fast it ended. It's like I drive down to DC. They have a great overtime win against Dayton. I think it went to overtime. Yeah, it went to overtime. Yeah. It was a great win to send them to the semifinals. And then, like, I'm sitting next to Jeff Nyberg at Capital One, and St. Joe's goes down in a hole right away, and it's like. And they ended up coming back and making it a game, but just like the abruptness and the quickness in which a season can end, and like you're going, and it ends at the drop of a hat. It's crazy.
Football is the only thing comparable to it. I mean,
but I think
you play your regular schedule, and then like the Jaguars, they were the 3 seed, and they were among not Super Bowl favorites, but at least AFC favorites, and. One close loss against the Bills and their season's done. And that's it. So it's kind of similar. But college basketball, it's especially for conference tournaments like the Ivy and now the American. The Big Ten's cutting people too, right, from their tournament?
They did, and then they took it. They took it away.
Okay.
So everybody's going to play, which I don't know. I kind of like that, especially with the bigger conferences. Now, listen, like.
Well, the SEC, I don't know if we need it, but it's too big of a conference.
But crazier things have happened. Like Georgia went on a run, I think in 2008 or something like that, where there was the game with the tornado at the Georgia Dome. Like, you know what I mean? They make a late run. You have the Temple team 2 years ago, at least for our sake. But the Big Ten took it away, and then they added it, which I guess, you could say what you want about that, but I'm pulling up the score here. Like Michigan, Penn State, just they beat Minnesota. They got to win. And then Minnesota beat Michigan State. But, this Penn State team, Kyle, is 1-11 in conference. They're 10-13 overall. They have a better overall record than a couple teams here with Maryland, who's just bad. And then Oregon, who everybody's hurt. But, Michigan just beat Penn State 110-69 tonight and just boat raced them.
Yeah.
Scored 56 points in the first half. These big conferences, 18-team super conferences here, I guess I would be for it. But
yeah,
everybody's got a chance. You know what I mean? You can give me the opportunity.
You saw on Wednesday night as well, Portland beating Gonzaga late night. Stuff like that.
That's why they play the game.
Why they play the games. Before we get into that, I don't know or before we get into everything else, I don't know if you saw real quick on that the Portland head coach. They were down players because of injuries, so he was practicing on the scout team and then ruptured his Achilles, and then was still standing on the sidelines for that game. I don't really know how, but
he basically did the Ron Hunter.
He did. More of an extreme version of Ron Hunter, seemed like.
Yeah, because he didn't. He really wasn't on the scooter. Now he didn't have a spill. He didn't have a fall.
No. The Ron Hunter one was all time.
Yeah, all time.
Especially the Sun hitting the shot. Obviously, with RJ hitting the shot, it's
I was just saw somebody tweet something out about like putting the Olympics on in school. Some teacher did that. I was in ninth grade in like my study hall, I guess, if you will, at the end of like the very last period of the day. And I had a teacher who was a Syracuse grad. I went there when Carmelo went there. So I walked in the room and I was like, Mr. Romano, you got to put the game on. Like, I think Northeastern was like pushing Notre Dame, and he pointed to, he had the screen pulled down and he had it all good. But I watched, that year, I think it was UAB upset Iowa State. I want to say, I think Hoiberg was still there. And then there was the Georgia State.
Baylor, right?
Baylor. That's who it was.
Yeah.
That's who it was.
I remember well.
Shante Leggins, by the way, from Portland, I think he said that wasn't the first time he had ruptured an Achilles like doing that. I think he said it like 7 years ago or something like that. He was playing 1v1 against one of his guys and he blew his knee out.
Jeez Louise. All right, well, we'll get him off the scout team, and we're going to get into some Big Five stuff here too. Obviously, we mentioned a few things that have happened over the last week or so. We're going to start with Drexel because Drexel played on the night of this recording on Thursday night. Really, really opposite from what has happened for the rest of their go in conference play. Losing to Campbell at Campbell, 81-60. Cope the most points they let up in conference play by far. I mean, their next highest was opening against Charleston.
I think they gave up 78 to Northeastern though.
I think you might be right.
Because they held Charleston and Wilmington at least to
won
honest scores, but
yeah.
There's also a Campbell team, by the way, that just put up 100 at William and Mary. Who, by the way, William and Mary won at Trask Coliseum tonight and swept UNC Wilmington in conference play.
Wow, listen, and this conference is still wide open. I mean, I'll go look at the standings now. I mean, you have Charleston still at the top at 9-2. UNC Wilmington's only 2 losses to Hofstra. Hofstra sitting there at 6-5. William and Mary 6-5, Stony Brook 6-5, Monmouth 6-5, Drexel 6-5, Elon 5-5. Outside of the top 2, I mean, it's still very, very wide open. But back to Drexel, I mean, obviously a very disappointing one, especially having won 3 in a row before that, 6 of their last 7 after their gauntlet to open conference play that we've mentioned a bunch. Cope, I can't say I was watching because I was driving back from New York, so I did miss it, but I saw that they shot over 70% in the first half. It kind of went off the rails in the second half. I don't know if you were able to tune in at all, but this is definitely a different performance than what we've seen from this Drexel team over the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, to answer your question, Kyle, nobody watched it because it was on Flow Sports.
And I know I was teeing you up for that, and I'm happy I did.
Thank you for that. I would have loved to tune into this game. I was texting the Mid-Major Madness group chat, complaining.
Sick flex, by the way. the mid-major
Warranted.
match.
Yeah, I'm not that important. I'm thankful they let me in. Complaining, I think warranted though. I don't think I'm a guy that complains a lot, and if I'm only going to complain about like the Broncos and Flow Sports, I think you got to let me have it. But yeah, I would have loved to tune in. If this league is wide open, it's as good as you say it is. Drexel's hot. Like, I'd love to see this game on some sort of television. I mean, at the bare minimum, ESPN Plus. But we'll save that for another day. Yeah, I feel bad that this might be my fault a little bit because I just put a piece out on Drexel with how good their defense has been. I got to talk to Will Chavis. I got to talk to Kevon Vanderhorst. I got to talk to Shane Blakeney. Was at the Hampton game where Drexel held Hampton to a season low 51 points. It was a narrow win for them. I think they'll be the first to tell you that it shouldn't have been that close, and they kind of let it slip at the end. But they had held three opponents to season lows of points. Monmouth, Hampton, and then they gave up 36 points to Stony Brook after they started 0-3. Best effective field goal percentage defense coming into this game in America since January 1st. They were locking people up, low percentages. They were not scoring 90 points themselves, but they're winning ugly. It's not a beauty contest here, as I said on Spaces earlier this week. But the defense had been good, offense had been good enough. But yeah, just too many things here. They had harped on, like, as much as they have improved, and they won 6 of their last 7 games. And are 6-2 at least in January here in the new year. They got to finish possessions, and part of that is rebounding. And tonight, I mean, you look at the raw rebounding numbers, 32-26, not a giant disparity, but how about the fact that 11-7 offensive rebounds? I see that. I see 12-6 second chance points for Campbell. But more importantly, Kyle, I mean, before I get into how Drexel shot the ball and how they kind of fell off here after a hot start, 19 turnovers is way too many. Yep. Way too many. That turned into 21 Campbell points. That's what the margin of victory was. I'm not asking Drexel to go in there and not turn the ball over, but 19 points, especially on the road, Kyle. Way too much.
Another thing too, Campbell also shot 20 more free throws.
That's another thing too.
It's another thing.
Yeah, you see 19.
It's not the whole story though.
No, you see 19 fouls to 11. But 21-point game here is not decided by the officials by any means. And we've seen some games like this from Drexel where they haven't exactly been high in the free throw department and taking a lot, but they started 7 for 7, and then they started ultimately, Kyle. This was a 13 for 16 start for them, and from that point, they go on to just shoot 13 of the next 37. And they were 0 for 10 for 3 in the second half. Made all 4 of their free throws, but just four free throws in the first half, 4 in the second half. And 10 of 32, good for just 31% in the second half here. And then you look over at Campbell. Look, Campbell only shot 4 of 14 from the 3-point line. But again, you bring up the free throws. How about that? They shot 50% from the field for the game, almost 54% in the second half. They made 14 of the 26 shots. Maybe not even really a tale of 2 halves. I mean, they were only down 3 at halftime, Kyle. But yeah, just not good enough. They harped on the rebounding as well. And then part of that, Kyle, is the NCAA game. They're up 17 in the second half. Me and you were kind of scoreboard watching at the LaSalle St. Joe's game. They're up 17 in the second half, and they needed that miraculous layup from Kevon Vanderhorst to bring them to victory here. So the turnovers, closing out games, finishing out possessions, it wasn't that for them tonight. I hate that I had to kind of box score watch that, Kyle, and I wish I could have watched this game given how hot they were. But yeah, it's been a good month. They're 6-3 this month. Taking away this loss by 21 points, the other 2 losses came by a combined 4 points. Had a chance to win at Towson. Quite frankly, if we're talking about finishing with Drexel, that's a game that they had in their hands that they probably should have won. Not a good one tonight, and I feel bad because again, I just wrote an article on them for Daily Dose of Hoops and put it out about how they're gelling, they're being more consistent at least in stringing together 2 halves and starting to string together games. Just didn't happen tonight, but it is hard to win on the road in any league in the country, Kyle. So They'll have to pick up. They'll play Elon, who again is kind of in a crunch right in the middle there with a bunch of teams not too far away from each other. But hey, just the fact that they're 6-5 after an 0-3 start, Kyle, good in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, this one one to forget. I mean, this is their worst loss they've suffered in conference play.
Yeah, and it's an old adage in sports, but this is a burn the tape game, Cope. Obviously, like they shot well in the first half. Things really did not go well in the second half. This is a burn the tape game. It's just one you hope is a stinker. You hope this is a stinker and it's not something that's more of a pattern of things that come over their last, handful of games here up until the beginning of March. You hope it's just a stinker and then they get right back to it. Won't be tough going to Elon, but then after that, home against Monmouth, at Stony Brook, at Northeastern, all winnable games. They might not be favored in all of them, but they're certainly all winnable games. Even home against Towson too, who they lost to by 1 point on the road, like you mentioned. I'm not concerned yet about this Drexel team. They just came off their best run of the season, best run they've had in a few years. Cope winning 6 or 7. So, not concerned yet. It's a stinker. Teams have these sometimes. You hope it's not a pattern, and that's, I think, as well as I could put it. So. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go to the A10 teams here, Cope. Probably gonna spend more time on St. Joe's to be completely honest, but team's hot, Cope. Team's hot. 7 of 8 now. The second hottest team in the Atlantic 10 Conference outside of the leaders in the Atlantic 10 Conference, who are staring at an at-large bid if they even need one in St. Louis. But this team is on fire right now. Like I said, 7 of 8. They are 4th in the A10 right now, 7-3. 1 game behind their next opponent, George Mason, who they'll be playing on Saturday. And of course, you will be at that game in Fairfax. Should be a really, really good matchup, Cope. I'm really, really excited that you get to see that in person. You've never been to their arena, have you?
No, that's another one I'm going to check off the list.
Yeah. And it's going to be going for sure. But listen, this team's been getting it done. Pulling one out against George Washington, 76-73 on Wednesday. You were at that game too, so I'm going to let you speak on it in a second. I didn't get the chance to watch, but heard it was some wacky George Washington threes at the end to make it even as close as it was. And I know St. Joe's was up a lot in the first half. Washington came back, took the lead at one point in the second half. St. Joe's took it back, and then obviously the ending I just mentioned there. But that coming off the heels of the LaSalle game as well, Cope. Team's peaking at the right time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, to win 7 of 8, 7 of their last 8 after the 0-2 start, 15-8 overall, now 7-3 in conference play. Look, they did take advantage of a GW team that was down Rafael Castro, who Steve Donahue said in the post-game presser he considers the best player in this league. But credit to GW. Really, really credit to them. Without potentially the best player in this conference, I think certainly the best big in the conference for sure, still had 18 offensive rebounds, which is way too many. And the fact that they were in this game, they had a chance to win it at the end. So credit to them, but man, they took a lot of threes. 45 of their 67 shots, Kyle, came from deep. And some of these, I mean, some of the shots that Trey Dinkins were hitting at the end, I tweeted that he hit a shot from Manayunk. I mean, he had a couple from the Hawk. He banked in one that he was standing on the logo. He knocked down another tough one that, if he had missed that, St. Joe's probably glides to an easier win here. But if we look at the Hawks, Kyle, jump out to a double-digit lead early. They're hitting shots. Jaden Glover Toscano was awesome in this game, Kyle. He hit 5 of the Hawks' 9 threes. He was 8 of 9 from the field. You saw the shot making from him. Dacier Haskins, another good game, which shout out to Hawk Hill Hardwood, who not only hit Jill Bodensteiner on Spaces today that I look forward to listening to tonight for the recording. But he's averaging over 16 points and over 6 rebounds in his last 4 games in this win streak that they're on. Shooting over 13 to 21, over 60% from the 3-point line, Kyle. He had 2 threes in this one. He had 14 points. He's taking a real sophomore leap and continuing to get better as the season goes on. I want to shout out Justice Ajabo as well. He had 3 blocks in this game. He was key, obviously, with the injury to Castro, played 30 minutes, but what GW is doing is like just with how good Derek Simpson is, they're doubling him. They want the ball to get out of his hands. So he throws it to Justice Ajabo, and he's kind of there on an island at the free throw line. GW hoping that maybe he takes a little longer with his decisions and they can kind of collapse back in on him. He had 3 assists. He had a couple of nice passes in this game. He had an assist to Dacier Haskins for a dunk early. But in totality, Kyle, before I touch on Derek Simpson, how good he was in this game, they go up early. GW throws a punch back. GW, I think, was 2-19 or 3-19 from 3 to start, and that's why the lead was what it was. They were chucking, and they weren't falling. But then GW had all the momentum. They were grabbing offensive rebounds. They ended up taking a 5-point lead in St. Joe's. I mean, how big of a swing is that to have the double-digit lead they had that then flips to a deficit? They took that punch that, again, Kyle, a month ago they wouldn't do. A month ago, this team would have lost this game. But the resilience that they had, Anthony Finkley, 2 big threes in this game. He had a big deflection late to make GW play another possession. And when the game got down to it, Kyle, Derek Simpson was only 5 of 15 and 0 for 6 from 3. But when the game got down to it, they just called a high middle ball screen with Justice Ajabo setting one for him. Derek Simpson went and made plays. He had 2 floaters in the lane. He got fouled on a 3-pointer that Chris Caputo threw his iPad and crashed out on, quite frankly. And I thought it was maybe a bit. It happened very fast. I don't know if in February a 10-game warrants that call, but Derek Simpson got fouled. He knocked down all 3 of those free throws. He hit a couple more late. Like, you got contributions from elsewhere. Austin Williford, by the way, he was only 4 of 11 and 0 for 4 from 3, but was very good on the defensive end. Had 3 steals in this game, 8 points. He made some really big plays, 7 rebounds as well. They got contributions from guys, but then, Kyle, when they needed it, Derek Simpson, who's been playing as well as anybody in this league lately, he got it done. And when the plays needed to be made late, Derek Simpson was the one that when it got for him. And Steve Donahue afterwards just said, hey, like, when it got late, we put the ball in his hands, told him to go make a play, and he sure did, Kyle. And how about 5 assists as well for Mr. Simpson? So yeah, continues to roll on for the Hawks. They're playing very well defensively. They were good in spurts in this game. I mean, 33% from 3 sounds good, but then they also made 15 of them for GW. Shot just 36% from the field for the game. Maybe not the prettiest of wins, but another one nonetheless. I just love the fact that they took a punch and Jaden Glover hit some tough shots and Derek Simpson brought them home. They got their workhorses on offense brought them home in this game when they needed it. They came back. They got a good win. And Hagen was loud. The students are in it. There's a lot of guys there. Like I tweeted this out, Cobb. Basketball is fun again in Hawk Hill. And I think what makes it this way is the last couple of years, there's been expectations with all the talent. And it's frustrating for the fans when that doesn't come to fruition. And they drop games that they shouldn't, that potentially keep them out of an at-large conversation when they beat a Texas Tech. But the way the season went, they start 0-2. They lose the game to Coastal Carolina. I went to Hagen for a couple games. Granted, one was against Coppin State, who stinks, is one of the worst teams in Division I, and it was on break. But you go in the gym, and it was empty, and it's not loud, and there wasn't a whole lot of good mojo going on. But I think the fact that this team has been a really pleasant surprise, the fans are happy and are in a good spot right now, and they're having fun, just appreciating how this season has turned out so far and has turned around, given that this looked like, I mean, how many times am I quoted on here, Cairo, on Spaces saying that this could go off the rails and be bad? And credit to everybody for sticking together, and it hasn't been like that. But it's fun again, Kyle. The fans are into it. There's more students. There's more people. It's loud. There's standing ovations for timeouts. Like that was first of all just a really good Atlantic 10 game and a really good basketball game, but a really good atmosphere at Hagen at Hagen Arena as well, Kyle. It was a fun night there last night.
It seemed like it. I wish I could have been there, but yeah, basketball was fun at Hagen again, man. This is a whole lot of fun. Seeing how well they're playing, and they have a real shot to do something cool here, Cope. I mean, as of right now, I don't think anybody's beaten that St. Louis team. That team's really, really good, but St. Joe's is a top 21 team nationally in Bart Torvik since the beginning of the year, I think, or at least since the beginning of conference play. The calendar year, I mean, not the season, of course, but they've been playing really good basketball. And I also have been quoted on here and on Spaces many times saying that I agree with you that this could go off the rails quickly, and this was not a good basketball team. I believe I said that in one episode, and completely proved us wrong, Cope. This has been a fun turnaround. All the credit to Steve Donahue and the staff and the players. They've impressed. Now hopefully they can keep it going too. I mean, not that I expect them to be on this stretch where they're going to win 7 of 8 and win every single game, but Cope, they've got you feeling like that. They've got you feeling like they can win any game, and the toughest test they're going to face yet is on Saturday against George Mason, and we'll see what happens there down in Fairfax. All right, to LaSalle now. Cope, I don't know if we need to spend a ton of time on them, quite frankly. No disrespect to the Explorers, but things haven't been going all that great lately. Obviously, we talked about the St. Joe's laws, but losing at Loyola Chicago, who's probably the worst team in the A-10 this year, on Tuesday, losing to Fordham before that as well. Obviously, coming off those 2 wins, which we were encouraged by against St. Bonaventure and Dayton, has the Explorers down to 7-16 on the year, 3-7 in conference play, in one of the last 3 spots in the league right now. And I said this on Spaces. It's probably the only thing I'll really say about this, but I think at this point in the season, and not that anybody really wants to concede a season or give up on a season, not that anyone in the LaSalle program should give up on the season, but if you're a fan and you're disappointed, I think your focus has to be on culture building and moving toward the next year or two rather than what's going to happen this season. Because let's be frank, they're 7-16 right now. The outcome is most likely already decided unless they go on an all-time conference tournament run and run the table and make the NCAA tournament, which I'm not saying can't happen because crazier things have happened, but it is highly unlikely that is going to be the case. And I think there's things that are being built in this LaSalle program. I think that Darius Nichols is building a culture. Even if they're not winning games right now, you kind of see the attitude and some things like that, forming to the best of what, Coach Nichols wants this program to be. There was a good crowd at the St. Joe's game, and all of them haven't been great crowds, but I think the athletic department's trying to build something with obviously the arena renovations that opened up last year and some of the things they're trying to do in terms of their marketing and things like that. Having a podcast with the OnlyFans and the Gola Boys and everything, which is awesome. But yeah, I as far as this season goes, I think we have to be realistic. At this point, you're going to have your main goals be to bring some of the underclassmen back who've been there, help establish a culture, and then reload for next year. Not that they're focused on that at this very, very moment, because there's, counting right now, 9 games left to play, I think it is, in regular season play, and then at least 1 in conference tournament. But that's just reality where this team is right now, and it's unfortunate. They've had a lot of injuries. I think this season could have been pretty different if their entire team was healthy for most of the season. I know you can't expect to go through an entire season with no injuries, but this team's been snake bitten, to say the least. So it's unfortunate. It's a little bit disappointing, but I'm still encouraged from what I see Coach Nichols building. I don't know how you feel that way, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, and I've said a bunch of times, this is a build for the long haul here. This is not something I'd have to go back, Kyle, and just see where they finished just over the last decade, going back to John Giannini. But this was always going to be a build for the future. You're taking a chance on a young guy here in Darius Nichols. And don't forget, he's young in his own right. He had 4 years at Radford, one of which was kind of coming off COVID. And he comes here now, has to put together a whole team that we've harped on all year. When it's difficult for anyone to win in year one, but especially, this job in this league. But, this game specifically, Kyle, if I had to give it a grade, I almost want to give it an NA, and I don't want to give it a grade. This, Kyle, the injury, just bad luck that they've had. Temple's been ravaged the last couple of years. We think of last year's team, and even some teams under Aaron McKee with Jamil, even going back to Jamil Reynolds and Damian Dunn missing games, and the Caleb Battle situation, like they've been ravaged. But Kyle, in recent memory, I don't know if I've seen anything quite like this. They could only play 8 guys in this game. They had to play Max Lepasis in this game for 7 minutes, and he fouled out in 7 minutes because they didn't have another big. Edwin Daniel was the only true big they had to play in this game. He fouls out as well in 25 minutes, but they were down. So we already know they're down Noah Collier, who we hope to see back next year. They're down Justin Archer. But for this game, Kyle, there's no Bowen Beatty. There's no Nas Hart, who, again, a freshman that has seldom played, but with all the injuries piling up that they've had, it's a body you can put out there at
probably would have gotten in there
at one of the big guy spots.
Yeah,
you're down him. You're down Josiah Harris for this game. They've been down Jose Grullon all year, who's going to redshirt. They're down Jerome Brewer for this game, Kyle. Like the injuries just mounted and mounted and mounted for this team. That two of the guys they played in this game are Max Lepasis, who is a late add, as well as Damon Strand had to play 14 minutes in this game and knock down 2 threes. Like the injury bad luck that they've had is crazy when you look at the amount of guys they have on the shelf. And like preseason, we talked to Colin Curtin, we talked to Darius. It's like, Colin, something that stuck with me that when we talked to him was he said, like, we have a lot of guys. We're not going to run out of options. That's a bad place to be in when you run out of options. That we have probably 12, 13 guys here that can play. But when you have 7 or 8 of them out,
you start to run out of options.
Exactly. You just don't have any because they're all on the shelf here. Max Lepasis is a guy who's playing his first year in Division I after coming off the street. And then Damon Strand was a late add, seldom playing at Albany. Like, it's kind of, look, does it suck that they lost to a Loyola team that's 6-18? Overall, after that game they played Tuesday night, yes, that's awful because they beat Bonaventure, they beat Dayton, and you thought there may be some good momentum coming. They lose a very winnable game to Fordham where they just couldn't score in the last 5-6 minutes of that game. The St. Joe's loss, I'm not really going to pin on them because the bottom line is St. Joe's just has better players.
They competed,
they have a more experienced coach. They're playing a lot better.
They competed in that game.
And they did, and they made it, a closer game in the end. But you just see a game like this. It's like, yes, it's awful. They lose to the worst team in the league, but Kyle, they're down everybody.
Yeah.
They're down everybody. I don't think there really needs to be anything else like that needs to be said about it. Like, hopefully they can bring some of these young guys back, but it's like it never got off the ground. And look, some of these guys, they have a bunch of a Truth Harris, a Justin Archer who may or may not get another year, Josiah Harris who's in a grad student year. Like they have some of these guys, but they're all out, Kyle. Like it's the injury, the injured reserve list they have. Like they must have the training room open 24/7. These guys, it's just unbelievable, the injury bad luck. And again, it sucks that it's a loss, but you go up against a big like Miles Rubin, who's a big guy, one of the better ones in this conference, and you're short bodies anyway, and they both foul out. And again, we're playing Max Lepasis here, who he played because he had to. That's what it was. And he gave it a good effort. I mean, think about this guy coming off the street being a regular student at Drexel. It's a great story and everything, but like he got thrown into a conference game where he hasn't played meaningful minutes all year, just with everybody and all the depth in front of him. And he's called into action here because they're running out of bodies here. It's unfortunate, Kyle, but I don't really know what else to say about this game. I mean, they played 8 guys, maybe 6 of which are on a scholarship.
Yeah. And that's why, I didn't want to spend too much time on LaSalle, not because we don't want to talk about LaSalle, but just because it's difficult to evaluate with all the injuries, and it's been a tough season. It's been a tough season, but I think there's something there that can be a foundation of a building block for Darius Nichols and company for the future. So, tough. Going to be a tough ending to the season, but I think, like I said, there's something to look forward to for next year and hopefully beyond that. All right, Cope. we got three teams left to talk about: Villanova, Temple, Penn. Um, Penn, I feel like we can spend a little bit less time on too, only because they really haven't played all that much. Definitely haven't played since we had spaces, and we talked about them a little bit on there. So we can touch on them a little bit, but obviously coming off the Cornell win and then three losses before that in a row: Harvard, Yale, Columbia. But again, another league like the CAA, which this one's wide open outside of, I was going to say outside the top, but there's still only two games back at the top right now. Penn is 3-4. Yale and Harvard are sitting at 5-2. And then Princeton and Dartmouth are 4-3. And then Columbia and Cornell are also 3-4. So still, still within reach to get to Ivy Madness. Cope for them. Got some tough ones coming up. Obviously, they're going to try to get off the schneid against Princeton for the first time in, 16 games, I think it is. 14 games. Hopefully they don't make it 16 games. The first time taking the court in this series where they're not winning the all-time series since 1903, which is pretty nuts. I like I said, I don't know how much time we need to spend because they haven't played a ton. I mean, they played last weekend, obviously, but they didn't play during the week. But regardless, an important stretch coming up with Princeton, who's tied with them, Columbia, who's in front of them as well, and then Cornell.
Yeah, and they only have the one game this weekend coming up with Princeton. It was a good win for them against Cornell. Cornell, by the way, oh boy, yeah. Look, they score a lot, and that's kind of the thing with them is they're going to play fast, frenetic pressure. Hope to outscore you. I mean, just raw stats here, Kyle, in points per game, and it might get thrown a little bit off because they play a non-D1 or they score 133 against. But, I mean, giving up 90. I mean, to open Ivy League play, Kyle, 104 to Columbia, 102 to Dartmouth, 102 to Yale, which Yale beat them by 34 points. They give up a lot of points. Penn gives up 81, but they scored 91, and it was a good win for them. It was the first time in a long time, I believe about a decade, that they've had 6 guys score in double figures, 19 from Michael Zanoni, who had 3 threes in this one. They shot 56% from the field, 47% from three, 20 assists on 30 made baskets. It's all good stuff up in Ithaca to get a win there. But against a team that, I mean, Cooper Nord scores 28 on 10 of 17. They still end up winning by double digits just because of the way that Cornell plays. So it was a good win for them. I don't believe they're going to be able to give up 81 and win against Princeton, who's surging here. It's a young team, and as Dalen Davis got healthy, as I saw in the game where they went to Jadwin, and he had a good game, and also Princeton couldn't miss, and they scored on 18 straight possessions, and they made 16 straight shots. I jinx everything, Kyle, so maybe Princeton will do it again, and they just won't miss in the second half here. But a critical juncture coming up for Penn here, obviously, because we're getting into the final stages and there's only 7 games left for them in Ivy League play, but a big rivalry game where they're going to get Princeton at home at 2:00. And it was a close game. with everything that happened, Kyle, they still were in that. They had a shot to win and tie that game at the end. So hopefully, sans a wild hot streak that I'll probably never see again, with somebody making that many shots in a row and going almost 12 minutes and a half, Kyle, without missing a shot. This Penn team has a chance to win. But then coming up here, I'm going to try to be at both the Columbia and the Cornell homestand next weekend before they got to go to Yale. But a critical juncture coming up, and they lost a close one to Columbia that they were very much in as well. Columbia's having a good year. Hovde's doing a good job. They're 14-7 overall, tied with Penn right now. So you look at who they're playing in the standings, and it's 2 teams that they're tied with, and Princeton, who's a game above them. So, this 3-game stretch all at home, Kyle. They can defend home court.
Stretch.
Absolutely, yeah. This is the most critical of the bunch here to kind of get yourself right going into having to go up to Yale. And then they're going to get Dartmouth and Harvard at home here. But yeah, very, very critical junction here. But a nice win to leave a good taste in your mouth. They had lost 3 straight. Yale put it to them pretty good. They lost one at Columbia that they had a chance to win, but to have the game they did. Like I said, Kyle, it's about a decade since they've had 6 guys in double figures. Pretty good game. Dalton Scantlebury continues a good freshman campaign. But I think this next 3 games, Kyle, could essentially Look, they have 4 games after that, but this is a really important 3-game stretch, probably one that determines their Ivy League hopes.
I agree. And even if you expand it a little bit further than that, of those 7 games left in Ivy League play, 5 of them are at home. Because after the Yale game, which is on the road, they have home against Dartmouth, home against Harvard, and then they close the season at Brown. So this is an important stretch. This is a very, very important stretch. Obviously, I mean, we're talking about the last 7 games of the season. Of course, it's an important stretch. But to have 5 of 7 at home, and especially the next 3 against a team, if they didn't have an insane hot streak, maybe you do beat a Columbia team that they were in on the road, and I think is a winnable game. And then against a Cornell team who you just put up 91 points against on the road. You win those 3 games, you're probably in a top 4 spot with 4 games left, 2 of them at home. You could be in worse spots if you're Penn. So despite them dropping 3 in a row before the Cornell win, I think they're in a decent spot here. All right, Cope. We're going to play a little game for the last 2 teams here that we haven't gone over, Villanova and Temple. So Villanova right now, 8-3 in conference, which is good for 3rd in the Big East behind St. John's and UConn, who play on Friday at the Garden. If you're a college basketball fan, tune in. I don't know why you wouldn't, obviously. And then Temple right now, 6-3 in conference play, sitting at 4th in the American after their close win at the Liacouras Center on Saturday against South Florida, who is a phenomenal team. Cope, which one of these 2 teams, if you had to pick right now, will make it further in their conference tournament, Temple or Villanova?
Oh boy.
Because at the top of the Big East, you got UConn, who's going to be a 1 seed most likely, and St. John's, who is ranked again and playing their best basketball this season. At the top of the American, you have Tulsa, who's 20-3, South Florida, who Temple just beat but is very good. And then above them is Charlotte, who there was no reason they shouldn't have won that game in the Liacouras Center. They ultimately did not in overtime. But both these teams have a very good chance of being top 4, if not higher, in their conference. Who do you think's got a better shot to make it further in their tournament?
Yeah, I'm going to go Villanova, and that's not a knock to Temple at all. I feel like their league is a little more wide open, definitely more competitive at the top with the likes of FAU and Charlotte. And I mean, hey, not enough people are talking about Tulsa and the job that Eric Konkel's doing there. And just odd to see that, obviously UAB losing all the guys they have, and obviously they don't have Mr. Yaxel Lendeborg anymore. They're not up there being the usual suspect. Memphis is a disaster this year. And so your usual suspects aren't there, but I think there's just with the fact that the American's a little more wide open. I'm gonna go with Villanova here because let's just call a spade and just call it for what it is, Kyle. Like the Big East is not good this year.
No, it's not.
There's a very, very good top, a very, very good top. Honestly, Kyle, in my opinion, for my money, Connecticut's the best team in the country. Not to take anything away from Arizona.
Really?
Excellent. Yes. Not to take anything away from Arizona.
I want to debate you on that. I don't want to do it right now because we're going to go too long on the podcast, but I'm fascinated by that.
There was no Braylon Mullins or Tarish Reed for that game at Gamble when they played Arizona. Yeah. Again, not to take anything away from Arizona, who is excellent and is the inside track on the number 1 overall seed. And there's so many good wins. But they got a gauntlet coming up. Arizona's got Kansas twice. They got to go to Allen Fieldhouse. Then they got to play Houston. Then they got to play Iowa State. They got a very tough stretch coming up. We're going to see what, this was always probably going to be the toughest stretch of games for them, but not to take anything away from Arizona. But I think a healthy Connecticut team, especially this year, with Braylon Mullins getting his feet under him and some of their freshmen coming on, and just as they gel and continue to get better and this UConn team gets better, UConn took care of business again. They beat the crap out of Xavier and they beat the crap out of Creighton. Played 2 very, very good games. It was hard to poke holes in. Anyway, Big East in general here. You have Connecticut. You have St. John's. You have Villanova. Villanova swept Seton Hall. It was a good win for them last night because I was at Joe's and they were playing at the same time. It's a good win for them. It was. But then, you look after that, Kyle, and there's a pretty steep decline almost in terms of overall records here. In terms of overall records, Creighton is 6-6. They continue to slide a little bit. They just lost at Georgetown, and that's trending to be a quad 3 loss at this point for Villanova, especially with that being a home game.
Georgetown's won 4 in a row, though.
Yeah, look out for the Hoyas, I guess, a little bit. After the 1-6, 1-7 start here, I mean they're 5-7, but Creighton, Georgetown, Butler, who I guess was a paper tiger here. They were in early bracket projections. I quite frankly wasn't seeing it. I'm not shocked to see them sit here at 4-8. Xavier, first year coach at Richard Pitino at 4-8. DePaul, and then Providence and Marquette just have been bad. It's just the bottom line here. So there's not a good middle here. And if you're telling me like, hey, Villanova went to Connecticut, pushed them to overtime. We'll see what happens with St. John's. I think just with the size and the physicality and the athletes they have, they might be a tougher matchup just based on personnel for Villanova. Not to take anything away from the talent, the size that Connecticut has, but if you're telling me like, hey, in a 1-game tournament here, you got to knock off one of those teams to get to the championship, as I think like they'll probably easily win their first game and move on here. I think I'm going to roll with Villanova, but not to take away anything from Temple. I can't believe I'm saying this, Kyle. I think for the first time, maybe ever, I'm excited to tune into the American Conference tournament. It's not at Dickies Arena. It's seemingly
there might be people in the stands.
Yeah, seemingly wide open because I feel like you had Houston dominated some years, and then you had Memphis. Memphis was going to be obviously an at-large team, being a 5 seed anyway. But there's no at-large. There's no at-large team in the American this year. That's what's going to make it fun is that you see teams at the top that are closely put together, and there's no at-large team that's comfortable going in here saying that even if we lose in the semis of the championship, we're going to get in. You have a bunch of teams crowded at the top that are going to fight for that bid. And, it could, 1-game tournament here, could be 5-6 good teams at the top that are vying for it. So in typical me fashion, Kyle, a long answer to your very short question. I'll take Villanova.
Fair enough. Cope, I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to use your reasoning actually against you here.
Okay.
Because anyone can win this conference. And I think that with Temple being one of the better teams, I think they can compete with anybody on any given night. And I think it's true for a lot of teams in this conference. I mean, even Memphis in a stinker of a year, they've beaten Temple on their home floor. I know it was only by 2 points, but I think they can still probably beat anyone on any given night. I think UAB is in that conversation a little bit too. FAU, obviously, beat Temple at home. They're sitting at 6-5 right now in the conference. Wichita State too as well at 6-4. But needless to say, it's so wide open that even if Temple doesn't finish in the top 4, if they I hope they don't do this, but if they do slide a little bit toward the end of the season and they get to a 7 seed or something like that, or an 8 seed, because there's a lot of teams bunched up here right now. I mean, from Temple at 6-3 in 4th to 5, 6, 7. Florida Atlantic at 6-5 in 8th. There's a bunch of teams in that conglomerate right now, so they could slide to 8 or 7th if they have a middling record the rest of the way. Do I still think that they can face Tulsa on a neutral floor and win? Yeah, maybe. I mean, Tulsa's a better team, but I wouldn't put it past them. Do I think they could do the same thing to South Florida? Well, they just beat them on their home floor. I know it's a little bit different on your home floor, but it's certainly possible. Charlotte, they should have beaten twice. Memphis, they very nearly knocked off on the road after unimaginable circumstances they were going through the day before. Florida Atlantic, they were in that game at home. They could have won. Like, this conference is so wide open. And for Villanova, yes, I think, well, they very nearly knocked off UConn and Hartford, which would have been win of the season in the Big Five easily. It's certainly possible. St. John's, like you said, is a little bit of a tougher matchup, I think, with their physicality, but also St. John's can't shoot. So they go cold. I think certainly Villanova can win that. I mean, that's how it happened when St. John's, who was probably a better St. John's team, for sure, better St. John's team last year, went down to the Finn, and Villanova won that game with a less talented team than they have right now. So, I think it's certainly possible. It would surprise me, but it wouldn't completely shock me if Villanova won the Big East tournament. they're certainly capable. There's also not a lot of competition, like you mentioned. I really don't think. I think maybe Seton Hall on their best day could knock off Villanova, but they've played twice and they haven't proved that they have their best day against Villanova. So I don't know about that, but their defense is certainly, I think, capable in a vacuum. And then St. John's and UConn obviously have already done that already. But besides that, the only other loss that they have in conference play is Creighton. And I'm not too high on Creighton either right now, like you mentioned. So yes, it's possible for Villanova, but if you're talking about two teams making the semis potentially in Temple and Villanova in their respective conference tournaments, who do I think has a better chance to advance to a final because of how wide open the American is? I think it's Temple. So a little bit of a windy answer for me too, Cope, but kind of using what you said for the other way. I think because it's so wide open, I think certainly anything is possible in this conference. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's the first time I've ever said that. I'm excited for the American.
I know. I'm very excited. And they made the conference tournament or conference final, excuse me. A couple of years ago. Obviously, they were a 13 seed. I don't know if anybody. It was coming off a betting scandal. I don't know if anybody was really excited, but they made it exciting for sure. I think the last time I was excited for the conference tournament in the American was when the first rendition of the American, when UConn, Cincinnati, Houston, what was his name on UConn who hit that crazy shot against Cincinnati? Jalen Adams?
Jalen Adams, yeah.
Yeah, absurd. Probably the last time I got excited for the American tournament.
I think they played that in Orlando, by the way.
It was a much better looking court. I actually was
oddball place.
Yeah, Louisville was in it that year too.
What a weird conference this is.
That's such a weird conference.
It's like we have UTSA in it now.
It's a weird conference. Yeah. We could go on and on and on about the American Conference. I don't think we should right now. But listen, now this is our first episode of February. We're almost there, Cope. We got 24 days until March of this recording, 23 when this releases. How can you not love it?
It's the best time of year. But it's coming. It's coming. The march toward March, Kyle, I think is
March toward March.
I was lucky enough to talk to Mike DeCourcy with a friend of mine for their podcast. This was probably 3 years ago at this point. I think it was 3 or 4. And he basically said once, he's obviously the Fox Sports bracketologist. And he said, once we get to Valentine's Day and you get kind of right smack in the middle of the month, which especially this year, with only 28 days being in February, where Valentine's Day literally is right smack in the middle of the month. That's when it's do or die. That's when every win is euphoric, when every loss is life and death. So we're almost a week away from that, Kyle. We're almost there.
From Saturday.
So we're getting into the guts of the season. It's flying by. It's been fun, but man, it's it's coming. March is coming. So a lot more exciting ball. It was a great night last night that you brought up with Portland, and how about Minnesota at the Barn?
Yeah, beat Michigan State.
Multiple court storms at the Barn this year for the Gophers. But yeah, it's the best sport in the world in my opinion. I'm not here to argue with you on another. I'm not here to put down any other sports like I feel like Mr. Rothstein does sometimes. I'm not here to put down other sports, but in my opinion, this is the best one in the world, and we're about to enter the glory days of it, Kyle.
Listen, I love a lot of sports, but you're certainly not going to get an argument out of me. We wouldn't be here if we didn't love college basketball. So there's that. But listen, you guys wouldn't be here listening to us and watching us if you didn't love college basketball. So thank you for doing that very much. Greatly appreciate all of your love and support that you've given us. Not just this season, but in all the episodes and seasons we've been doing this. So thank you. Obviously, you know where to find us, but if you don't, at Big Five Pod on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, on our YouTube channel, Big Five Pod. Listen to our audio-only versions on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Cope, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
All good from me. I'm going down to D.C., potentially, I don't know how many road trips I'm going to take. I think it's only going to be maybe 4 this year. Number 2 is this weekend. Number 2, right after work, I'm hitting the road. I'm headed to our nation's capital. I'm going to be at Capital One Arena Saturday for Villanova at Georgetown. And then I'm going to knock on my wooden desk here that I don't hit any DC traffic on a Saturday afternoon on the Capitol Beltway because I am heading straight. I will be responsible. I will not speed, do anything that I shouldn't, but I am going to be in a hurry getting to Fairfax. The Eagle Bank Arena for St. Joe's at George Mason was equally a big game in its own right. So good DC doubleheader from me this weekend, Kyle. As the season moves on, I'm approaching 40 games. Again, I'm going to knock on wood that I don't get sick and don't break my 46 games of last year, but I think we're on pace to beat that number pretty good.
I would say so. I would say so myself. Enjoy, have fun, be safe, and hopefully you all tune into those games. And, well, we'll see you next week.